Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much. It's a wonderful time. I know the first session gave us very, intensive, information. It's a very great panel. So our next panel, I'm so honored and privileged to host the next session for the U.S. government programs and services to support export. As you know, it's our International Trade Center. We work very close with the federal and state government to promote U.S. products and services. So our International Trade Center, we work very close with federal and state government to promote export. Especially, we want to serve more small and medium-sized business to fund the buyers and distributors in overseas. So as you know, the doing business in Africa, the export finance program is very crucial. And also today, so we are excited to introduce our wonderful speaker from Department of Commerce and from Export-Import Bank and also from SBA. So they will introduce more and more programs and services from the federal department. And also, as I will present, is for the state Illinois Department of Commerce, because we just launched the grant, STEP grant. Maybe someone already heard about that. This is a grant to support our small business going global. So let me start from Ben Todd. Ben Todd is from U.S. Exim Bank, and he's especially for the Africa. So I heard you just come from Nigeria a few days ago, right? So this will be a good time to introduce your program and also share your experiences in Africa. Welcome, Todd.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Dr. Jun and Governor State University for hosting this. And usually when I try to get the attention of a crowd, I usually try to say, I have money. Because I do, well, I do have some money. But I represent Exim Bank, and we are a financing institution. We exist to finance U.S. exports globally. And in particular, I am fully 50% of the mighty team of 2 that focuses on Africa at Exim Bank. Cape to Cairo, Dakar to Djibouti. I cover it all. So Exim Bank, we've been around since 1934, the original Great Recession. And we are the official export credit agency of the United States government. And our mission is to create, sustain jobs in the United States by financing exports. And we do that by financing overseas buyers that purchase U.S. goods and services. And we finance U.S. companies on their working capital needs, allowing them to export. We do this at no cost to the taxpayer. So Jean, I would like to say, I guess he stepped out, but we actually do not cost the taxpayer a dime. We actually make a profit. You'll see that on the next slide. But we also do not compete with the private sector. We fill in the gaps where the private sector is unable to provide financing, either because financing that particular transaction is just too expensive for them from a balance sheet perspective. So over the past 2 decades, we have generated about $7 billion for the American taxpayer, which pays for my salary, keeps the lights on at our building, and then the remainder goes back to the general fund to help pay down the deficit. 2015 was not a very kind year for Exim Bank. We had our, if you may have heard in the news, our authorization did lapse, but I would like to say that we are back in business. We got a 4-year reauthorization. It was signed into law on December 6th, and we're back in business, and we are looking forward to working with everybody on moving applications forward. So, as it relates to Africa, it is a congressional mandate. In the past 6 years, we have approved more than $6.8 billion in sub-Saharan Africa. You add North Africa, and that's about $8 billion. And we financed everything from cosmetics to Boeing aircraft to power generation equipment to pipelines, construction equipment, anything that's made in the U.S. we can finance, with the one exception: if you want an F-16 or an M1A1 Abrams tank, that we cannot finance. Sorry. And so we're here to talk about doing business in Africa. So let me first frame it with the opportunities. Obviously, Africa has a tremendous infrastructure deficit. We heard from Dr. Ijose about Nigeria's infrastructure deficit. And basically, with just concerning power, Sub-Saharan Africa generates about as much power as Spain, which obviously Spain is much smaller than Sub-Saharan Africa, but has a much more sophisticated generating capacity than Sub-Saharan Africa. But Sub-Saharan Africa is still one of the fastest growing regions of the world, just behind Southeast Asia. Despite some of the headwinds, it's still fast growing, and there's a lot of economic potential there, especially demographic-wise as well. As was noted, there's a tremendous amount of young people there, a big consumer base as well. And so there are investment opportunities, and the reason why and the value add of why entities like Exim Bank are so critical is that host governments and commercial banks do not have the capacity to finance all of this. And so it really needs to rely on multilateral investment banks and export credit agencies and other developmental financial institutions to provide that gap in financing. So here's a recent little graph from The Economist, just kind of showing that Sub-Saharan Africa, despite some of the headwinds, is still expected to grow at about 4.5%, which is second only to Southeast Asia. When you exclude Japan, 5.7%, and that's mostly because of India and China. So there are definitely more than just pockets of opportunity in Africa. There are a large number of opportunities. Brandon showed you this slide earlier, but I think it does speak volumes of both the infrastructure deficit and the infrastructure opportunity. You can see Morocco in the north, South Africa in the south, the Nile River, as kind of the lit up part of Africa, but vast areas in the middle. You can just see the power deficit. And you say, oh, well, look at Australia. They look like they have it. But, well, that's the outback, folks. There's just kangaroos there. And so access to power is quite low. And that's why Exim Bank is a part of the Power Africa initiative, along with TDA, Commerce, and a number of other U.S. government agencies. One thing I would like to point out, and that I am very much proud of, is look at Ghana. Ghana has one of, if you exclude South Africa and you exclude North Africa, it has one of the highest electrification rates in Africa. Why is that? Ghana had a program called the Self-Help Electrification Program, SHEP. Jan and I, my colleague Jan, raise your hand, he works in the local office here in Chicago. We went and visited a company, Weldy Lamont, in Mount Prospect, Illinois. We have financed the government of Ghana's SHEP program, their Self-Help Electrification Program. And that U.S. company and its supply chain that stretches across about 20 states in the U.S. Is one of the primary reasons why Ghana has such a high electrification rate amongst its population. This small business out of Chicago has wired thousands of villages in Ghana, and it was with Exim Bank support. So it's something I'm pretty proud of, and actually was able to witness one of the signings of a $350 million support that we gave the government of Ghana for the purchase of those services back in 2008, and it's still being constructed and rolled out. So Exim Bank has had a long history in Africa. We constructed port facilities in Angola back in 1942. We helped finance projects for Ethiopia post-World War II recovery, actually during World War II, but after their tiff with Italy. In Nigeria, we helped finance a flour mill, and I believe that was the 60s. And we were Power Africa before Power Africa. We helped finance the Akosombo Dam in the 60s in Ghana. So what do? We provide a number of products. We provide, similar to SBA, which will you hear from, we provide working capital to companies that export. You need to buy a widget from another company in order to tack it onto something to export. We can provide financing to the U.S. company to purchase that widget. We provide insurance to U.S. companies that are exporting on open account terms to buyers that they may be concerned about. We can insure that receivable in case it defaults. You can claim on that insurance policy, and we can make you 90 to 95% whole. And then we also lend money. We lend money to buyers overseas. either through a guarantee or through a direct loan that is purchasing U.S. goods and services. Now, we have 3 core requirements. I don't know how many people here have ever taken a credit training course, but you always hear about the 5 C's of credit in kind of bank credit training. Well, in Exim Bank, we have our 3 C's. So everybody get out your pencil. These are our core requirements. Country, content, and credit. We have to be open in the country. On our website, we have what's called our country limitation schedule. It shows that we're open and for what tenors. Content, exports, exports, exports. We only finance U.S. exports, made in, exported from the U.S., goods and services performed by U.S. citizens or I-9 visa holders. And then credit. We're a bank. Even though we're got .gov on the end of our email addresses, we're still a bank and we have credit requirements. And so we expect to be repaid on any credit that we put forward. And we've done a pretty good job. Our default rate is under 1%. So we do have a rigorous credit analysis on every transaction that we enter into, be it a $1,000 transaction or a $5 billion transaction. So as I mentioned, we are part of the Power Africa initiative. We have pledged $5 billion. Although we have only done about 7 transactions at $130 million, we have a strong pipeline moving forward. A number of the transactions that Dr. Ijose was talking about, we have been engaged in with a number of those sponsors. Here's one in Côte d'Ivoire, where we worked with the West African Development Bank to provide financing for their steam turbine, converting an open cycle plant to a combined cycle plant. You will hear about this company later, so I will let them talk about it, but this was a fantastic transaction with a local company here in the Chicago area with fire trucks and the Lagos state government. We provided a direct loan to the Lagos state government to purchase these fire trucks. Demitech, a small business that manufactures specialty medical and surgical supplies, we provide insurance for their entire export portfolio, including sales to Egypt and actually South Africa as well. Dow Chemical, Shakira mentioned the REAP program in South Africa. We provided financing to one of those power plants that was purchasing fluids that get heated up by the sun's rays in a concentrated solar power plant. Transaction paid off. It was fantastic. We always like to be paid back. Another small business, Acro Bridge, out of New Jersey. We financed their projects in Zambia and Cameroon. They build bridges, and that helps with obviously much needed infrastructure and goods to flow throughout those 2 countries. And another medium-sized engineering company in Cameroon, we supported them on a potable water project, about $60 million in purchasing potable water equipment from GE and a whole host of sub-suppliers for Yaoundé in Cameroon. Cargill, we've worked a lot with Cargill on their short-term insurance, both insuring LCs issued by African banks that support wheat imports from the Midwest, but also in Liberia supporting wheat imports there. So our basic advantages is we allow you to offer competitive financing to your buyers. We provide financing for well-structured projects. We have strict environmental and social impact standards for larger projects that give a reputational kind of good stamp to your projects, and we provide lower pricing, longer tenors if your buyers need that. With that, I know my time is nearing an end. Happy to talk to you. This is the mighty team of 2 that work on Africa at the bank. So I'm here. I have plenty of business cards. I think I have enough for everybody here. And I'd be happy to talk to people during lunch and the break sessions and take some questions if you have them.
So our next speaker is from Department of Commerce and Commercial Services Officer. It's a Rich Carpenter. So let's welcome Rich.
So my name is Rich Carpenter with the U.S. Commercial Service Office in downtown Chicago. And we are kind of the one-stop shop for facilitating small to medium enterprises with exporting internationally. So this very basic slide describes promotion of exports. Now, what does that really mean? So you hear a lot about the large-scale projects, like the US TDA projects, you know, and you're kind of wondering if you're a small business, how you fit into the grand scheme. And, you know, if trade leads are there, do they apply to you, et cetera. So we are pretty much the organization that can get you to where you're trying to go, or we will do our best efforts to do so. So we have a domestic network. We are represented in just about every state. In Illinois, we have offices in Chicago, where there are 10 specialists. We also have offices in Rockford and Peoria for outlying areas. And I myself and my colleague over here with the phone in his hand, Dan Kim. Dan, you want to raise your hand? So our office is divided into industry portfolios, and I handle technology, information technology, telecom, safety and security systems, a little bit of aerospace and defense. Dan over there does all transportation, so rail, automotive, also chemicals, plastics. And Dan, let me know if I leave anything out. All right, so the way that our network works is we also have an international network of offices, and we have colleagues overseas. We are the domestic side. We are client-facing. We have colleagues overseas in offices in just about every country or region. There are countries that do not have a specific office assigned to them, but they have overlapping coverages from their neighbors. So that is the case for some African countries that are a little smaller. They'll have desks in larger countries that do trade specifically with those areas. And it's, you know, it's a very beneficial relationship because they are co-located with U.S. embassies and also with some of our colleagues like through SBA or there's Exim Bank offices or officers co-located in our office domestically. So like Jan Blaho in the side there. When he stood up before, he is actually located in our office as well. So when you come to see us, we have access to tie you into the appropriate agencies, along with, if you are not quite ready to export, we can also assist you in getting to work with the SBDC through, like Ms. Ma in the front, Governor's State, and also there are 2 or 3 other SBDC centers throughout the region. So we're pretty excited to help small to medium enterprises get where they're trying to go, and there's a couple different ways in which we can do that. All right, so one of the first things that I want to say up front is we are a governmental organization, all right? If you are attempting to do business as a small to medium enterprise in Africa or any other country, a lot of times you're going to perhaps be approached by a consultant, okay? Other times you may seek them out. But we are kind of like a gigantic network of consultants, but we are a governmental agency. I don't work on commission, and our fees are either 0 to minimal for SMEs. If you're a large country, we'll still work with you, sure. But right now we're really pushing to support our small to medium enterprises. And just to give you an idea of like some of our service fees, the most that we charge for our services is typically in the range of $700 to maybe $800. And that's for a full business-to-business gold key matchmaking service, which some of our future panelists may end up talking about. Not too sure. We also do initial market checks, so market research reports. We can give you a single company promotion, which is, say, you want to bring together key targeted distributors, buyers, government officials, depending upon the type of product or service that you're selling, and also media representatives in those areas. You can host a reception, you can host a demonstration if you have a product that works well with a demonstration, or you can do a kind of meet and greet targeted pitch to those individuals. These things can be presented for like a most recent case, like that the ambassador's residence. Invites will go out from the ambassador themselves on their stationery, so you get a lot higher visibility through protocol and getting the right people in the room to get your targeted message across without competing with additional buyers like you may at a trade show or a large event. So that's, it's a pretty popular product, as well as due diligence, which is also a very important step when you are putting together, especially demonstrating business plans, credit financing, credit backing, and approaching any of the banking products. So we actually do a company background check or a due diligence report. We can do some of it here domestically, and that is actually free of charge. So we can do a couple of things on our side, but we also do an overseas cooperative approach with our actual office in the country. They'll do a physical visit to the company. They'll check their balance sheets, check their financials, and make sure that it's not just, I think we had an incident recently where there was a business that was located in a small building with about 70 other businesses registered to the same address. They just, kept expanding the placard, and it turned out that they were really just kind of a virtual commodity and were just kind of blowing smoke, and it wasn't actually a deal. One of the most important things to say in regards to that is the basic conversation and speaking to me and even speaking with our partner posts overseas. I mean, we can do conference calls, we can do webinars, email contact. That is all entirely free. Okay, so if you have any questions at all about doing business in a particular area, if you are curious to see what the climate is, if you have a business who is giving you difficulty, then by all means, pick up the phone call. I'm here, Dan's here. If we are not the right specialist for the industry in which you are competing in, then we will certainly, oh wow, it always wants to restart, I'm sorry. We'll get you to the right person and where you want to go. So we're, we are 100% dedicated for you, the business owners, the small business providers, and that's, that's pretty much how we like to operate. Let's see. Oh, and I've just killed my slideshow. But so one of the last things I wanted to touch on also was advocacy. So we do a lot of commercial diplomacy, which involves leveraging our ties with the State Department and other partner organizations when dealing with maybe issues or problems that you're having as a small business. If you have entered into a contract with a business overseas, we may be able to help, but our resources are strongly limited. We really advise you to come to us first before you make the deal, in which case we can get some expert opinions for you. We don't offer legal counsel personally, but we can also steer you to preferred provider lists, especially who are distributors in the local area, and also counsel that our overseas posts have worked with in the past. So it's, we do advocacy. We do take on cases through our advocacy center in Washington, D.C. to solve disputes, whether they be large or small. They basically, you submit a package and they decide if they are able to take on your caseload in the particular area. And they're usually very good at what they do. But it is also a service that we provide. And as Benjamin was saying about the 3 C's, so ultimately what we need, our requirements are a little bit easier because you must be a U.S. business, okay? Now, if you're exporting a product or service, you have to have a 51% U.S. added value content. But the 51% added U.S. value is in place, and it's a bit of a broad definition because a lot of our product manufacturers are not sourcing raw materials from the U.S. There's just no way to do it. So you would have to basically demonstrate that you are taking the raw materials from where you are obtaining them. You are adding 51% of U.S. value here in Illinois, and that can be warehousing, shipping, packaging, R&D, finance, accounting, any sort of administrative overhead, and then exporting it back out. So as long as you satisfy those requirements, we are pretty much able to help you, and we will try to open doors to wherever you want to go, whether it be Africa or any other targeted market. On the flip side, we will also give you honest answers, okay, because we aren't making a commission. If you have a product and you're trying to go to a place in Africa because you believe it's the place to go, we're not going to stop you. But we will give you the honest opinion if our post overseas says there's no room for it here. You're competing on price against, say, an Asian supplier. It's just not going to happen. We're going to tell you, and then it's up to you to decide what you want to do with the information. So I am going to be here all day. Dan is with me. By all means, anyone who wants to, come talk to me. I like to talk. I just don't like PowerPoint very much. And I look forward to working with each and every one of you, including my esteemed colleagues on the panel. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rich. Help us save time so we get more minutes for our question next time. So next speaker is from SBA. It's our, actually, it's our international trade center. We are funded by the U.S. SBA Small Business Administration and from the state Illinois Department of Commerce and the Governor State University. So we are very honored to introduce Dennis Foldenauer, Regional Manager of International Trade Finance Specialist in SBA. Thank you, Dennis.
Well, Mary's fine. The PowerPoint, I just want to thank you all for attending today, showing your interest in exporting to Africa. I want to thank Governor State and all of my panelists for helping to provide information to everyone here about the important topic of trying to find customers in Africa and try to grow U.S. exports. My specific role at SBA relates to trade finance, but I just want to give you, kind of with the theme of 3 C's, I might as well have my 3 C's as well. SBA functions in really 3 project areas or 3 program areas. Counseling through places like the Small Business Development Center, International Trade Center here at Governor State and around the state and country. SCORE, a network of retired executives who have experience and maybe can help you as a mentor initiate your business or help your business grow. And then through procurement technical assistance centers to help folks find contracts with governments. Second set of C's, probably what you know SBA best for, are loan programs. That's what we'll discuss today. And then finally, contracting with the federal government, largest single buyer of goods and services in the world. SBA tries to make sure that small and medium-sized enterprises can compete on a level playing field for those contracts with the federal government. So that's just a little bit of background on what SBA does generally. What we'll talk about today, though, is SBA's role in export finance and specifically in encouraging U.S. exports. I noticed on a couple slides earlier all the different agencies that participate in exporting. SBA is right there alongside them advocating for small businesses in things like the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement, the first trade agreement ever to have a small business component in it, making sure that all of you all have access to those foreign markets at the same way that your large business competitors do. Certainly in other ways, like our export business planner referenced up there. So important when you're talking about financing to go prepared. If you talk to that banker, you might only get one conversation. That first impression is so important. Does this business know where they're going? Do they know what they're doing, who their customers are? Have they done the research to find out how to grow? And so using that export business planner on our website, a PDF with information to introduce all the different topics you should consider in the plan, and then form fillable areas where you can jot down your notes or actually develop your plan there in the PDF. Print that out, maybe review it with someone like Mary, get an idea of what her opinion is, sort of poke holes in it, and then you're more prepared to go and meet with that lender and say, this is what I need financing to do. Reference, of course, to the U.S. Commercial Service, my colleagues at the U.S. Export Assistance Center. Export Assistance Centers around the country, really a great idea of the federal government, got tired of being criticized for living in silos, and so all of us down the hall from each other can say, hey, I met with a prospect today on a gold key service in Bangladesh. They need financing from SBA. They need credit insurance from Export-Import Bank. We can all meet with them together in our offices or out at the plant and discuss what the best way forward is. It's an example of government trying to work together. And then finally, Business USA. Interesting way to solve that problem like I just discussed, these silos. If you were to go to Business USA and introduce the topic of exporting, that website would ask you a series of questions that would help you navigate to websites within the federal universe to get answers on whatever your specific question is. I need to patent my product. You could be asked a certain set of questions from Business USA and get you to the right part of the Patent and Trademark Office. It actually has a small business arm within it that probably if you were to go there to their website, you'd never be able to find it. Business USA will help you find those little niches in the federal landscape that will help you kind of achieve your goals. So I do want to talk about small business. How do we think about small businesses? I guess when I joined the SBA, I wouldn't have thought that a manufacturer with up to 500 employees would qualify as a small business. So I'm sure many of you here in this room qualify. For anyone who thinks, I've gotten a little bit bigger than what SBA could offer, take a look at that. For wholesalers, up to 100 employees and retail, $7 million in annual receipts. I'm sure most people will fit into that category. So generously defined so that folks in that space can access our services, especially our loan programs. We also have alternative size standards for those folks who are in businesses where maybe their traditional NAICS code justification for being small is not working, and so they can use those alternative size standards as well to qualify themselves. Do want to think about affiliation issues. Are you a small business that's a subsidiary of a large business? Because if you are, that can throw things off. And so just be aware that if you're one of 5 different businesses, we'll take a look at them all combined to judge whether they're eligible for our programs. Thinking about indirect exports, SBA may be unique among the federal agencies that consider exporters who sell to U.S. companies that then export products that incorporate those small businesses' products. We consider you exporters as well. So if you've ever sold a screw to Caterpillar or a flange to Boeing, and you can get them to say that the products that you're selling are going to go into planes that are then exported, we consider you an exporter as well. So thinking about light bulbs in this room should be going on to all the businesses that you supply to or that are your customers. Do they then export? Can I access these SBA programs because of that? So think about that other avenue as well. I do want to just offer a couple differences between our programs and export-import banks. We have no U.S. content requirements. So in a globalized economy, globalized supply chains, if you're bringing in steel from outside the U.S. and transforming it here into the products that you then sell to foreign markets, we don't have a problem with that. So thinking about also all those things that opens up, shouldn't have to worry about where your supplier is in order to sell to the world. We do require that it leave the U.S. So for all those businesses that say, hey, I've got a great opportunity to set up my manufacturing outside the U.S., sell from Mexico to China, that wouldn't work for us. We do require that the product leave the U.S. That's kind of the base level understanding of how to use our programs. So just thinking about all these expenses, when you're thinking about that business plan, lots of different things to go into it. How do I finance? How do I find customers? All these different things. These are expenses that you're going to incur, either in your time spent on doing them or in hiring contractors to do that. So getting your arms around what the expenses are to accomplish your export goals, I think that's a good idea. But for us, it actually carries some weight in terms of whether this is a pre-shipment expense or a post-shipment expense, how we look at that with respect to the loan programs that I'll discuss in a moment. So for everyone in this room, I guess I talked to a fair sample of small businesses. Some of them say, you know, we're in a command space with our product. The people who buy our product from outside the U.S., they need what we sell. They can't access it in their home market, and so I demand payment up front, cash in advance. You can see on these scales of risk that the seller risk is very low when you demand all the cash up front. I ship after you pay. Of course, for the buyer, you know, a U.S. brand is very strong, but that's a lot of risk for them. And so within that universe of risk, between cash in advance where you get the money up front, or shipping and praying, as it is with open account, it's a relationship, inverse relationship for the buyer and seller risk. And so managing that for your customers and for yourself is a really important part of your export plan. How do I want to make myself competitive in these other markets? One way to do that is to offer products that have terms along with them. Pay me in 60 days, pay me in 90 days. And so offering terms as you would your domestic customers. And that's the kind of competition that you're going to face from competitors in that market. If you're selling to Germany and the domestic suppliers of your competitor goods are able to offer terms, if you're not offering terms, you're at a disadvantage. So think about that. Financing is sort of an esoteric area of operating a small business. You're there trying to make a product or sell a service. Thinking about the financing to get that done, I think, doesn't come across everyone's mind, but it's certainly something you'd want to think about as you try to take a step forward in growing. So SBA steps in with that. Number one thing that people say when they get into small business, cash is king, cash is king. We've all heard that phrase, and I think it's nice to kind of internalize this. Yeah, it's great to have cash, but that's really how business operates. If you can't cash flow that $1 million export order, you can't take it on. You simply can't produce the good and pay your vendors and pay your anyone else that needs to be paid to produce that product. And so having access to cash, having access to working capital can really catalyze growth. Using the financial system that's so strong here in the U.S., maybe one of the best, deepest industries in the world for that service. And so SBA steps in with guarantees for private sector lenders. When you think about all the names of banks that you've seen around the region, Bank of America, Wintrust, First Mid-Illinois, maybe a little bit downstate. All of those banks participate with SBA's programs, and specifically the SBA Export programs are for all of you. They're guaranteed at a much higher rate, 90% guaranteed to the banks. If you default on your loan, SBA steps in and makes them whole to the tune of 90%, whatever that outstanding balance is. And so thinking about yourself as a growing business, I'll step through the 3 programs just very briefly. You can get a lot out of the PowerPoint that I'm certainly happy to share after this. But when you think about a small business starting to grow, you have various needs. Maybe you need to attend trade missions. Maybe you need to hire contractors to do market research. Maybe you just need to get ramped up with some machinery and equipment in your plant. This Export Express program is a great way to do that. It can be set up as a revolving line. It can be set up as a term loan to help you really achieve whatever purchases or anything that you would need to get exporting. Use up to 30% of that line for domestic purposes too, so it's a little bit multi-purpose. If you're a business that does domestic business and you need some cash flow related to that, but also has an export operation, then this is a great product for you. The banks like it too because there's no SBA oversight. You can see it's a fairly low dollar limit on the size of the loan. We allow lenders to use their own forms, use their own underwriting, never have SBA looking over their shoulder and making these loans. And so if you can offer them what they need to go to closing, then they can do it as quickly as they can. It's a great way if you're faced with something, an immediate need, you can provide everything that the banks would want. That's a great way to get some cash quickly. We do require that you be in business for at least a year. That's pretty much across the board for our export program, simply because we hope that you have some domestic customers before you go out and try and conquer the world. I understand the excitement there, but a base level requirement for these programs. International trade loans, this is really very simply a term loan. So if you want to expand your plant to do exporting, if you want to buy machinery that produces your products, say in metric units rather than conventional, which is what you'd produce for a domestic market here in the US, you could use this loan for that. Machinery and equipment, real estate, you could set it up as working capital as well. But of course with the term loan, a little bit of a different type of financing here because you're paying interest on the entire balance of that loan each day. Whereas with revolving lines, like what we'd see with the Export Express or with the Export Working Capital, you really only pay on the balance that you've been advanced. It's very similar to a credit card. And so just, again, a whole world of things for you to consider as it pertains to your specific business circumstances. Last loan I'll talk about is the Export Working Capital, probably most analogous to what Export-Import Bank offers in their working capital. And I would say, toot my horn a little bit, that it's pretty competitive with their terms under $5 million, which is the limit for the size of a loan under this program. Of course, thinking about those no U.S. content requirements, we don't have restrictions on military exports or security exports, which is actually a growing industry sector here in Illinois and in the U.S., and a couple other things that make it attractive, which is the low guarantee fee. So when you think about getting U.S. government guarantees for loans, there's a cost to that because the bank, we charge the bank and then the bank charges you for that. And so this Export Working Capital program is a very low cost of capital with relation to the privilege of having SBA's guarantee. That makes it very attractive. What you're doing there is financing purchase orders. So if you've ever heard of the term factoring, not perfectly analogous, but an interesting way to think about this, that if you bring your lender a purchase order and you have one of these lines, you've been approved for the credit in the first place, that purchase order will allow the lender to advance to help you purchase the inventory and produce the good and wait for that receivable to be collected. So again, with the cash flow, let's say that you're in a business that has a recipe for, I always use this example, animal supplements. We had a customer that exported to Japan. They had the recipe. They use a contract manufacturer here in the US to produce the good. Contract manufacturer demanded to be paid within 30 days. But the customer in Japan wanted 60-day terms, classic 30-day mismatch in that cash flow that you would need. And so a line of credit like this can really help you manage those ups and downs with respect to the cash that you have on hand. So an interesting program. I'm really proud to say that I have probably the closest role to it of anyone in SBA. Most of the loans that we have are processed through giant warehouses in California and I think Arkansas. With these export working capital loans, they actually go to me and my counterparts around the country to process and to underwrite. And so it's something where you don't get lost in the giant warehouse in California. You actually know someone here in Illinois that can help you walk through what we need to see to be able to give you that credit. Like I said, that's the process, applying with the private sector lender. If you have a relationship with a lender, I encourage you to explore what these options are. If you find that the lender's reluctant, then you can shop around for other vendors as well, because there are lots of lenders competing for your business. Here's my contact information. I'll stick around today, and I did bring a lot of cards, so I can certainly accommodate anyone. I want to thank you all for your time. Enjoy the rest of the presentations.
Sorry, our next session, our next kind of like program, we will introduce the program from the State of Illinois Department of Commerce. Actually, Margot should be here. She's the director for Office of Trade Investment in the state, but she has another meeting in Springfield. So she gave me the honor to let me to present, the program just like behalf of her office. So just as I mentioned, our ITCs work very close with the state and also federal department. So I would like to take this moment to introduce more program from our state of Illinois. It's beautiful. It's in Chicago. So the Office of Trade Investment is kind of like our ITC and all our just the Federal Department of Commerce and Exim Bank and SBA and USTDA. We have the same mission. Our mission is promote export. Especially we promote U.S. product and services export to overseas market. And mission is to create more jobs. It's our key. And also the OTI, just we have working partner, working closely with our SBDC and ITC centers network in Illinois. So I just want to mention currently we have a 34 SBDC in state of Illinois and 12 ITC, International Trade Centers at ITC. So I would like to introduce our counterpart. I have an ITC director from Shangbin. Kathy is here. Yeah, Kathy, could you, yeah. And Molly is here too? Yeah, Molly is here. So actually we have it's our director from 2 offices. So we have another 9 ITCs just around the state. So we provide same services. I'm sure they have a similar program like us. It's to introduce our export promotion programs. So maybe you heard about our state office. We have the Office of Trade Investment office main office in Chicago. They also have staff in Springfield. But maybe you didn't heard about it. They have 10 overseas offices, just like in China, in Japan, Europe, and also in South Africa. And also it's in South Africa and also Mexico and South America as well. So we have 10 foreign offices to support you guys to doing export business. So this is the overview for our export sales. Okay. It's kind of like it's we have a it's our state of Illinois. We are the top one state for the whole Midwest to export. And also we are 5th largest export state in the nation. And for the data is from 2014, so the export, is total $68 billion. And this is also our direct export is account for 10% of our GSP. It's a gross state product. And also I list you the top countries, the top 15 countries Illinois export. So you can see Canada and Mexico is 2 main countries we export because we have a NAFTA, North America Free Trade Agreement with Canada and Mexico. And China, Germany, Japan, Australia, and Brazil, is the list of the top countries we export. So this page is will introduce you how to, which commodity or which industry is the main export from Illinois. So machinery, transportation, equipment, chemicals, and computer, and also agriculture products, is top line for our export industries. So I know some company maybe think about you want to export, but you don't know which country or which product you should to get started. So maybe this give you some idea. And this page, we will take more time to introduce our program for ISTEP program. So ISTEP means Illinois State Trade and Export Promotion Program. So that we mentioned, we work together with the state and with the federal. So for example, our International Trade Center, so we help the small and medium-sized business just like prepare for the spot, just like new to export company. So if you need us to doing marketing research, or we can help you to give you the just like step by step, how to start which country you will pick up or which commodity you will pick up, we will help you doing the start plan. And then the next stage, if you want to developing the leads, for overseas, so we are working with the commercial services, the federal department, and also the Office of Trade Investment from the state. So next stage, we are working for the export finance program. So we got supporter from SBA and from Asian Bank. So just I mentioned, the iStep program is very good program. Actually, it's a grant. So as we mentioned, our government, we not only provide the free or no cost services, but also we have a grant. So we want to share with you more information about this grant, so maybe you can take advantage of. So for example, the STEP grant we cover for 3 programs here. So first is individual foreign trade mission. So for example, if you have your potential buyer you found in South Africa, so you want to meet your potential buyers in South Africa, so we can just reimburse your travel expenses. So including airfare and hotel. So if you want attend the trade show there, so we can reimburse the booth charges. So this is a 25 to 75% of the cost will be reimbursed. So the cap is $7,500. The second program we support is a group trade mission. The group trade mission, this means the state office, we host a group of company to represent the state of Illinois to attend any trade mission or trade shows in overseas. So if we have a trade show in Nigeria, okay, we have 10 companies come together, and then our state will pay everything for the booth design and for kind of like trade mission, just like before arrangement or kind of like a matchmaking event, we organize everything. So you only pay your travel, airfare, and hotel, but when you come back, we reimburse your travel cost. So how about that? So it's also, the top is $5,000. The third program the grant covered is for the product certification. So maybe you heard about, especially for some European market, they need ISO certification, or they need a CE mark or CC mark, kind of like certification, the export compliance. So if you need, it's just like pay additional charge for applied certification, so we also can reimburse, 50% reimburse. The top is $3,000. So these 3 programs, actually since 2016, so we have a new program. If you want to apply, if you want to design translate your website to different language, so we can also pay you the web design free, 50% up to $3,000. So this is, just I mentioned, the group trade mission. So every year, the state office, they host more than 10 or 20 group trade missions. So this is to Africa. Especially, I just mentioned on April 27th to May 7th, we have upcoming trade mission to South Africa and for healthcare industry. So this is our trade mission is during these 4 or 5 years to here. So I'd like to know, is maybe many just like audience here have heard about STEP program. I know some company have take advantage of the program. Could you raise a hand if anyone have used it? Okay, great. So we have more than 10 companies use it. It's fantastic. So during the break or lunch, I think we can share more, the audience can share more information or experiences for that. So this is what I mentioned. So the group trade mission, so we design the booth for you. It's all free. So you just send us the digital, the materials or marketing materials to us, so we will design it. I think it's good because we come as a group. So if you come as an individual company or private company, maybe you don't realize how important your company are. Yes. So if we come a group, represent the U.S. or represent Illinois, you give me high-end, it's a reputation. It's good for you. So I'm sure every company is interested about the program, but how about the criteria? Which one will be qualification, qualification for this program? So first should be small business. We mentioned is for the manufacturer, your employee should be less than 500. And the second is about your annual revenue is reached to should be more than 250,000, but even a little bit lower than that, that's okay. So we will review your just kind of like your marketing plan, or especially your export strategy, to see how you can get value from this program. And then they also mentioned about the product content. It must be 51% is U.S. content, and 25% is made in Illinois, because we are a state program. So, yeah. So since we have this program, we support more than 400 Illinois companies use the STEP grant. Even for our ITC at GSU, we support more than 50 companies, small companies, to use this program as well. Yeah, this is also, I want to introduce Sam Natun. He is our trade specialist in state office, focused on Africa and the Middle East. Yeah, this is what I want to share with you about the STEP program. And then also, if you have any question for all our speakers, so I would like to I want to watch the time. So I was thinking, yeah, we have plenty of time. Great. So if anyone has question, please raise your hand. We can let our speaker, not only myself, but also our other speakers from the U.S. government, is to give you the answer. Thank you.
Want to address your question to one specific speaker, please say so. If it's a general question, we'll see who will be the best equipped person to answer, as this can be to the whole group.
Thank you very much. I think I will have to direct my question to the four presenters. There is a statement of truth, difference between a statement of truth and a true statement. Everybody here believes today that Africa matters. Africa is the future. The Exim Bank, the US SBA, the OT, you are all doing fantastic job. But how far do you believe that the emerging market opportunity that God has provided for Africa, how far do you think the US government believes in this? And how far will you be able to dissuade US from outsourcing? How far will you be able to turn human resources and capacity building for sustainable development in Africa? And how far will you be able to change people that are experts that come from Africa, leave the shore of Africa, and never go back to Africa? These are some of the questions that actually propel us in order to fracture Africa solutions to Africa problems. First, in the area of development, Exim Bank, we look at big projects like the Olympics that bring a lot of investment opportunity to nations and regions. Will the Exim Bank support Africa to, first of all, host the Olympics? Secondly, in the area of advocacy, Africa has suffered a lot in the area of bastardization of information. How many people in the United States today actually know the potential of Africa? The voice of Africa is not existing at all here in the United States to promote the potential of Africa. How will you, Exim Bank, support in the area of advocacy? Prove me right. We have Ebola that actually struck Africa just about a year ago. And they were promoting the emerging market opportunity. Ebola almost derailed and dissuaded people from going to Africa. And it was a hot debate here. Should United States ban the flight to go to Africa? In what way will you be able to help?
Okay, thank you. So I understand your first question is asked for Exim Bank, right?
Yes, Exim Bank.
Okay, so we can start from this because we only have a few minutes.
Yes.
We want to share for all the audience the opportunity. Thank you so much. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Indeed, Shakira, apparently you're not the only one that gets cerebral questions from our friend over there. So, the key to Exim Bank, remember, is we finance exports. So we're not going to finance an Olympic program per se. If, for example, a lot of the responsibility in getting the Olympics would be upon, for example, as South Africa won the World Cup, on kind of the bidding process on getting the Olympics in your particular country. And if you're then needing the infrastructure in order to, perhaps build stadiums or other facilities, and it would use U.S. companies, then indeed, Exim Bank could possibly look at something like that. In fact, in Mozambique, when they had the African Nations Games several years back, a U.S. company built the Athlete Village, Worthington Industries, out of Ohio. So there are companies out there that can do that in the U.S. And it was a great facility. When you fly into Maputo, you can actually see the stadium, and the Athletes Village is right next to the stadium. As far as branding, yes, I will. Africa does still suffer from a brand problem. There have been a lot of strides in everybody looks at The Economist, when The Economist said failed continent in 2000, and then rising continent about 2 years ago on the cover. But certainly, and I think one extremely important thing, and I've had discussions with this with a lot of the African ambassadors in DC, is capturing the spirit of the diaspora to better market Africa. Because it really, it's your responsibility to market Africa. It's a fantastic continent. I've been there. A number of people, have been there. I've lived there for 2 years. But, there's such a vast network of diaspora in the U.S., and I think it's incumbent upon them to really market how great Africa is as a business destination, because, yes, it has suffered from a branding problem from a very long time.
Thank you. Yeah. So I was going to say it's because Africa, I choose this picture. It's my friend. Actually, he went to Africa this week. He took this picture. It's Golden Africa. So, so I like this picture. So I use this as our background. So anyone have other questions? I saw you. Okay. Yes.
Yes. Is it possible for you to share your PowerPoint presentations with us?
Yeah,
And if
absolutely.
so, how?
Yeah. So, so after our event, we will upload all the PPT and even the video to our website, the GSU website. So I will send you the link. Thank you. Okay, sounds great. Okay. Yeah, we have one more question.
Just to your point of harnessing the potential of the diaspora to market Africa per se, is there any programs that you can think of that, I don't know whether through your departments or anything like that, that are deliberately in place to offer resources to the diaspora to be able to market Africa? Like we're from Zambia, for instance. Not much, it doesn't always make the news. It doesn't make, but it's quietly sitting there. The economy goes up every now and then. GDP projections go up. So it's a good opportunity space for a lot of companies, but it's hard for me to figure out how to market it, so to speak.
Well, the Exim Bank doesn't have any programs in particular, but across kind of the vast array of agencies up here, the Commerce Department has they're leading the effort on a Doing Business in Africa campaign. And they've held several diaspora events throughout the United States to get the message out. I can put you in contact with the folks there. I'm sure Rich can as well. There's a Africa group at Commerce that works on these types of issues.
Yeah, and also as Rich just mentioned, so we not only office in Chicago or in the U.S., and also we have another 200 offices right, all over the world for commercial services foreign office. So for example, if you want to doing some business in Zambia, so you can get contact from Rich to their colleague in Zambia, embassy, the US embassy in Zambia. So they have some specialty there, so help you to marketing your service or marketing your product. This is another way. And if you want to go there, we can help you apply the grant to travel, yeah, if your company is qualified. It's the
I have a question. You talk about, at least I noticed in the PowerPoint, that the company has to have only so much funds and has to have so much employees. Well, if it's small business, most small business start as a mom and pop, and they only have maybe 1, 2, or 3 family members putting their funds together, and it seems like it just kind of wipes out the whole idea of small business because it's not even catering to it. You're not going to have 500 employees initially opening out the door.
No, you make
Awesome question. Thank you so much for asking, because those are upper bounds that really were to serve everyone below that level. So congratulations.
small business we serve is 1 to 499, the company. If over 500 is not our client. So we serve for less than 500 employees, not more than 500 employees.
Directly opening their business with just 1 or 2 employees, and they want to do something like myself. I'm a real estate broker, so development would be something that I would want to go and do and to develop, and even eventually do develop and start a clinic and education. But development would be my only aspirations in another country. But my thing is, would you finance? And I'm open for over a year, and I'm doing real estate here in the U.S. And my thought is, would you finance me? And I only have 3 employees, 2 people sitting on my board, and I have the resources to actually pull together the development company and the construction company and so forth. Would you finance me? And I only have like 3 employees, or I only have, X amount of dollars. How would you?
Certainly we could consider it. If there's that export component there, it's something that we could consider. Let me tell you a great story. Bluefield Cosmetics. It's a company that has maybe about 40 employees now out of Ontario, California. Do you know how it started? It was 2 members, they're brothers of the Nigerian diaspora. They used to fly to Nigeria with suitcases of cosmetics and sell them there. And they saw a great opportunity. So they opened up a business, Bluefield Cosmetics, and they started essentially as an aggregator, buying different cosmetics, primarily that were targeted for the African-American community in the Los Angeles region, and then started exporting. They got their feet wet, they were selling, and then all of a sudden they came to Exim Bank, just 2 people, and got an export credit insurance policy. So we started insuring their receivables. They were offering 30, 60-day terms to these buyers that they've established relationships with in Nigeria. They now have 40 employees. They actually manufacture their own line of cosmetics, as well as still buying cosmetics from others, and they've been able to expand. So certainly, I mean, like SBA, we have no lower bounds and we have no upper bounds. The smallest transaction we've ever done was $500, and that was textbooks to Kenya. The largest we've done was $5 billion. I mean, our mission is to support U.S. exports, whether you're small or whether you're large. And in fact, there is an entire, and Jan works with our small business division, there's an entire division within the bank, it's actually the largest division in the bank, that is focused on driving more small businesses to export.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
If you are looking to build up your export business in the United States, okay, that's the pre-export financing, and that's where SBA steps in. What Exim Bank does, Exim Bank primarily focus on export financing, which means ensuring foreign account receivables, and post-export financing when you're exporting capital equipment. So if you're looking that you need the additional financing domestically to get into export business, that's primary domain of SBA. Thank you.
Great.
Yeah, I have a question. My name is Lu Bai. I'm with the Auto Parts Distribution Company. And I have a question for the Golden Match program. Maybe it's for Rich.
Key? Golden key?
Yeah, Golden Key Matching program. I just want to...
Golden key. Gold key.
Gold key. Gold key. Okay, so what's the deliverable of this program in terms of how many overseas distributors are you planning to connect us with, and how to evaluate the successful level? Like, do they respond, and how deep we can talk with them, and then if they don't respond, what's the follow-up help?
All right, so the Gold Key service is actually our top tier product. It's like the most intensive, and you're looking at, for that particular service, doing a face-to-face meeting. So the way that those contacts are developed are, you would provide us with the information as specific as possible of who you're looking to actually partner with, distribute in that particular region. Now, they're going to get you probably no more than 4 total by the time it's all done. They'll work down from a list of anywhere from 100 to 50 to less, down to the most top qualified candidates, and those will be pre-vetted. So they're going to reach out to them and have a dialogue, and they're going to be actively interested in meeting with you before you actually get on a plane and go anywhere. They're going to set up the meeting, they're going to set up the logistics, they're going to set up translation. Pretty much you have to fly and have a hotel room. You're going to do face-to-face meetings, and then the deliverables on that are the actual contacts or contracts that you two develop. So if you go and you meet all 4 and they don't meet your expectations, you know, there's not a whole lot we can do about the actual partnership between you two, because we are the facilitators. We will put you in the same room with who we believe are the best qualified candidates, and it's up to you to make the deal.
That I understand. So you're saying that at least you can connect us with the 4 candidates that show strong interest, at least to talk with us.
Correct.
Okay.
And also, I want to make a comment, because Gold Key services, sometimes they charge $700 for small business. So even you can use STEP grant to cover this cost. So apply the grant and cover, because we work together with the Department of Commerce. So you can apply the STEP grant and cover the Gold Key charges for $700.
I'm sorry, can I just add one last thing to that? To follow it up, so the initial part of what was a Gold Key search initially was a market research report or a partner search. What they've done is prefer to do a market research or a partner search first to evaluate the market, and that's a much lower tier product, so it's maybe a $200, $300 fee. And then if you do decide to do a full matchmaking service after that, the cost of your partner search is deducted from the Gold Key service itself. So you're still only paying $700 total, but you're paying, you know, maybe $300 up front, which is also covered by STEP funding and also other grant programs that are available.
Oh, okay. Hi, I'm Darryl Brown, Delightful Taste Foods. I wanted to piggyback on her question. As far as the banking on your behalf, were you actually saying that you would do like a factoring thing to be able to help that situation? Remember the question that you asked him?
No,
How would you be able to get some money to be able, if you had one employee, et cetera?
We do not, we're not a factoring organization, but what we would do is we would insure that receivable.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to get
more
to.
attractive towards a factor.
Okay.
You could easily sell that, discount it, and sell it on. So,
Okay.
but we would not engage in doing that directly.
Well, I misunderstood, but you got it right now. I'm on the right track.
Okay.
But to take the same scenario that she's talking about with the SBA, I've been around, and it's kind of tough with the SBA. I don't know if things changed, but it's kind of hard to get financing. And if you took that situation when you spoke on the SBA would be able to step in, what would they do then if it was in her scenario?
SBA and not to Exim Bank.
Right.
Yeah. Gentleman from SBA.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm going to ask that question. To the SBA. Basically, that's what I'm asking. The same scenario that she's in, what would the SBA do without putting all the, I would say, shoestrings around, because it's so hard. You had to have collateral, you had to have all these things to be able to get a small loan. So if she's in a situation like that, what would the SBA be able to do? If she doesn't have collateral, or she doesn't have all the things she needs, would they be able to help?
Ultimately, it's an agreement that you have with your lender. That SBA is in privity with the lender. We stand behind them in the case of your default.
Okay.
So you have to satisfy bank lending standards.
Okay, that part I understand, but if she had a deal, opportunity with a country that wanted to do business with her, but she don't have the monies or whatever, what would be able to be in place to help her?
After this, yeah.
I mean, ultimately, it goes back to the need for financing before you're able to get paid by your customer. And so to set up a revolving line of credit, we offer those on both the domestic side and the export side. Export side has a higher guarantee, and so a lender theoretically should be more interested in making that loan because the risk has been taken out at a higher level than a regular loan. But that lender is still going to go back to its 5 C's of credit. And so the question that I think what you're getting at is, how do we ease lending standards in the case of an SBA loan? But the lender themselves is setting their risk. And so when the private sector lender says, I have no SBA guarantee, their underwriting standards are going to be in some way different than what we would see with the SBA guarantee. Even with SBA, you still have to have the 5 C's.
Let's say if that was a $2 million deal, I mean, and that opportunity is there presented. I guess what I'm trying to say is that being small is very hard.
Yeah, I think maybe it's a good way we can just discuss this more details. It's after the event, and my office in the 3rd floor, so we can set a time next week or this afternoon. So we will discuss more details, or we can invite Dennis to come down to here, and we can have a detailed just discussion for this program, because different company, different case have different process to apply the loan, so we can just leave it wrong. Okay, so yeah, thank you everybody. Especially I want to give another round of applause to all the speakers in the morning session. Thank you so much. Especially we have some speaker just like flew from Washington DC last night, so and then come here is very early morning. So thank you very much. And as this concludes our morning session, the afternoon session will start at 1:30. So we will have 4 business leaders, from the manufacturer and from just like they're doing for equipment export to Africa. So they will share their successful stories to our audience.